A forgotten family gift, rediscovered decades later, and carrying within its threads a story woven by hand. The guest recalls how his mother purchased the rug in 1967 as a gift for his father, only for it to quietly pass through the family until it arrived on his doorstep.
Well, my mother bought it in 1967 from a local dealer here, and she bought it as a gift to my father. By then I had graduated and moved, so I completely forgot we had this rug until it showed up on my doorstep when my brother was going to go to Germany, and he sent it up to me.
Presented is a silk Persian rug, once thought to be a 16th century Tabriz, but in truth, a late 19th century Harraz. Harraz and Tabriz share neighboring roots in northwest Persia, yet careful details reveal their differences to the trained eye.
It probably has upwards of 500 knots per square inch. And one thing that differentiates a Tabriz from a Harraz is that the weave is single wefted as opposed to double wefted. Another thing to note about this rug was woven in the late 19th century where they had just started to introduce some synthetic dyes that tended to fade.
This rug, woven with extraordinary finesse, contains as many as 500 knots per square inch, its precision enhanced by the luster of silk. Time has softened its colors, for synthetic dyes of the era faded, turning what was once a deep crimson ground into a lighter shade.
So this ground color was a much deeper red originally.
Was it really?
Yes, and some of these other colors were also deeper.
The indigo blues, however, remain steadfast, their natural dye holding firm against the years with a cool vibrancy. What sets this rug apart is its likely creation without a diagram, as the reconciled and unreconciled corners show a weaver working freehand with remarkable skill.
Now, the silk Harrazes were amazing in that I don't think that the weaver who made this rug was necessarily weaving from a diagram. And to have a rug this fine being done freehand is extraordinary.
Okay.
One of the things that leads us to this is if you look at the border, the design very gracefully turns the corner in an uninterrupted fashion. And that's what we call a reconciled corner. If we go up to the top of the rug, we'll notice that the design stops and then this design goes straight across.
Oh, I see.
And that's called an unreconciled corner. That's usually indicative of a rug that's being done freehand.
The floral motifs flow with natural grace, echoing the artistry of Northwest Persian design that values fluidity over rigid repetition. Its preservation is extraordinary, protected from the wear of floors and kept instead as a piece to be admired. Purchased for $2,500 in the 1960s, it stands as both a family heirloom and an artistic achievement. In today's market, this silk Harraz rug would command a retail value of...
This would have a value of $20,000.
She'd be pleased.
She'd be very pleased.
She would really be pleased.
A gift from a board of directors, carried from Iceland to Denmark, and remembered through the brushstrokes of a nation's leading painter. The guest explains how his father, a golf professional abroad for nearly 2 decades, received this painting among other tokens of gratitude.
This painting hung in my dad's office. It was given to him in Iceland. He was a golf pro at the course there, and he was going from Iceland back to Denmark to teach golf. And the board of directors gave him this among other gifts.
Presented is a landscape of Thingvellir, a place steeped in Icelandic history and national pride, painted by the acclaimed artist Jón Stefánsson. The accompanying letter from 1935 confirms the gift's origin, tying the work directly to that important chapter in his father's life.
You were kind enough to bring in this letter that he wrote as he was heading towards Denmark from Iceland.
Yes.
And I just wanted to quote a little bit because it mentions the paintings. Boy, oh boy, wait until you see the gifts which were presented to me. A painting by Iceland's leading artists, a picture of Thingvellir.
Stefánsson, born in 1881, studied in Denmark and France, bringing European influences back to Iceland while championing traditional landscape art. In the 1930s, while younger artists turned toward radical experimentation, Stefánsson remained devoted to portraying Iceland's natural majesty. This painting reflects that vision, capturing not just scenery, but a sense of national identity during a transformative era in Icelandic culture. Its provenance, preserved by the family through both memory and letters, strengthens its significance as more than a decorative gift. The bold signature anchors the work in authenticity, while the composition demonstrates Stefansson's skill at balancing realism with atmosphere. Such works rarely appear outside Iceland, making this example especially desirable to collectors of Nordic art. Once valued casually by relatives and kronas, its true worth stretches far beyond a simple car or household purchase.
My aunt's niece, who lives in Iceland, when my aunt died, she came over to settle the estate. And I invited her to come to my house. And she came in through the basement, and I had a couple of paintings hanging on the wall. And her mouth dropped, and she went towards the wall and said, "You're rich." I said, "I am? How rich?" She says, 100,000 kronas maybe.
In today's auction market, this Jon Stefansson landscape would command between
I would say if you were to sell this at auction, you might expect to get $30,000 to $60,000.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
a love for railroads, a modernist eye, and artwork once discarded that now commands the attention of collectors. The guest began acquiring these pieces more than a decade ago, drawn to the striking imagery of Burn Hill, whose work once graced the covers of Railway Age magazine.
It's an Art Deco type of motif that was used on the cover of Railway Age magazine from about 1950 through 1956. The artist is Burn Hill. The people at our plant, I work for Electromotive, the people who make locomotives, never really liked this because he tended to minimize the locomotive and put a lot of the background into his paintings. But from what I understand, Hill liked to try to capture the essence of a railroad in his scenery. All of this artwork was actually thrown away at our company and rescued by other people. As I saw the pieces for sale in private collections, I would buy them, 1, 2, or whatever.
Presented as a collection of original paintings and posters by Hill, an artist who captured not just locomotives, but the spirit of American railroads in their settings. Hill's style minimized the machines themselves, favoring dramatic skies, sweeping bridges, and vast landscapes that gave railroads a sense of grandeur. While employees of Electromotive were skeptical of this approach, poster collectors and design enthusiasts came to see his work as modern classics. The posters, rescued from being thrown away, now stand as cultural artifacts that link mid-century industry with bold graphic design. Each poster today carries an auction value of about $2,000, turning once-forgotten advertising into highly sought memorabilia. The originals, known as maquettes, surprise the market by often fetching less than the posters, though they embody the artist's direct hand. Yet these paintings transcend posters alone, appealing also to collectors of railway history and modernist art.
I've never seen any of them before. I think it's something exciting for other people to look at, such as the modernist design, the shadow of the bridge in this case. Here we have a very European style low vantage point with a big wheel of one train in the foreground and the engine. They keep going and going and going.
Auction estimates for the original studies would be given a conservative valuation of about
$3,000 to $4,000 a piece.
Oh, wow.
Smaller locomotive portraits, charming in their precision, hold value in the range of
Are worth between $1,000 and $1,500 a piece.
Okay, that's good.
altogether. With 12 posters, a collection is a triumph of preservation and foresight, is valued at
With the 12 posters with a value of $24,000.
a childhood Christmas gift, a cherished memory, and a toy that has soared in value far beyond its playful beginnings. The guest recalls receiving this airplane as a little girl, making her the original owner and lifelong caretaker of a remarkable piece.
Mother and Daddy must have given it to me for Christmas when I was a little girl.
So you're the original owner?
I'm the original owner.
And that's you there, right?
That's me.
From the looks of that picture, it looks like you had some time behind the steering wheel of this.
Played with it a lot.
Presented is a Steelcraft pedal plane, proudly bearing the decal on its seat and designed with a striking realism rare for toys of its era. Its radial 7-cylinder engine mirrors the aircraft of the late 1920s, giving children a taste of adventure behind its steering wheel. The name Spirit of America reflects a marketing nod to Charles Lindbergh's famous 1927 transatlantic flight, when everything from bicycles to toys borrowed his legacy. Though it shows gentle signs of use, the plane has survived in outstanding condition, its form intact, and its history undimmed.
They call it the Spirit of America, which of course related to Lindbergh flying across the ocean in 1927. After he flew his plane, they called anything the Spirit. And so that was just a sales gimmick to sort of cash in on the Lindbergh.
Steelcraft, known for their pedal cars and planes, created sturdy toys that today stand as cultural icons of American childhood. This example, preserved across decades, carries not only nostalgia but also mechanical charm that delights collectors of vintage toys. Back in 1991, the plane was listed in an antique book at around $2,700. Yet the market has only grown since then, with demand for such rare survivors climbing steadily upward. In today's auction world, this Steelcraft pedal plane would be valued between...
So I think at auction on today's market, this would easily bring $7,000 to $8,000. Your sister's car, which she still has, probably only worth about $4,000.
Really?
A childhood gift, passed down unexpectedly and revealed decades later as a treasure from one of baseball's most storied years. The guest recalls receiving the ball at 13, keeping it close through moves from Ohio to Virginia and back again.
1919 World Championship Baseball. They were given to me roughly about 38 years ago, I'd say. I must have been about 13 years old. A friend of my mom's gave them to me before he went back to Texas. And I've had them ever since, sitting in a little viewing area at the house there. And then I went down to Virginia with me for a while and then back here to Ohio. And just brought them in here to see what we might have to say about them.
Presented is a 1919 World Championship Baseball, signed by 26 members of the Cincinnati Reds. That season, the Reds won 96 games, the best in the league, and triumphed over the heavily favored Chicago White Sox. The infamous Black Sox scandal has long overshadowed the victory. Yet historians insist this Reds team was truly among the greats.
They won 96 games that year, which was the best in the league. And of course, they went on to play the Chicago White Sox in the World Series. A lot of people favored the White Sox, Shoeless Joe Jackson. The White Sox lost the World Series 5-3. Then it came out that they had perhaps thrown those games. And it was a big cloud over baseball. But what's kind of lost in all that is that the Cincinnati Reds won the World Series that year.
On the sweet spot lies the signature of manager Pat Moran, joined by team owner August Herman and standout players of the era. The lineup of names includes Hall of Famer Ed Rausch and the elusive Jake Daubert, whose signature is especially rare. Championship team-signed balls are highly coveted, and the further back in history one goes, the scarcer they become. In fact, fewer than 5 examples of a 1919 Reds championship ball are known to exist today. This survivor represents not only athletic glory, but also a pivotal moment in America's pastime. Preserved in leather and ink, in today's market, this extraordinary baseball would command between
$45,000 and $50,000.
Phew. That's a little more than I thought.
Yeah.
The guest region houses simple math, a thrift store find, a curious label, and a piece of political fashion born from a turbulent election year. The guest recalls buying the dress 25 years ago for just $10, drawn in by the simple tag that read Nixon dress.
I bought it in a thrift shop about 25 years ago for $10, and it just had a little tag on it that said Nixon dress.
Presented is a campaign garment from 1968 designed for women supporting Richard Nixon in his race against Hubert Humphrey. That election was marked by social unrest and fierce competition, and Nixon's team turned even clothing into a tool for persuasion. The bold design carried not only fabric and thread, but also the hopes of winning over female voters in a divided America. Political memorabilia often captures the spirit of its era, and this dress speaks directly to the strategies of mid-century campaigning. Though once just a novelty thrift piece, it now stands as a wearable relic of history, blending politics with pop culture. Its rarity lies in its survival, since such dresses were worn with enthusiasm but rarely preserved for decades. What was once a $10 purchase has transformed into a meaningful collectible of the 1960s political stage. In today's market, This Nixon campaign dress would carry an auction value between
Today this dress would sell at auction for between $400 and $600. So you did great.
Nice, yeah.
a family's heirloom album, woven with outlaw legends and Civil War shadows, carries the echoes of Jesse James himself. The guest explains that her mother's grandmother was Jesse James's half-sister, and these photographs have been passed down for generations.
My mother's grandmother is the sister of Jesse James, the half-sister actually of Jesse James, and these are the things that my mother has collected over the years.
Presented is a collection of images, portraits of Jesse and Frank James, scenes tied to the Northfield, Minnesota bank raid, and photographs of Quantrill's guerrillas.
My mother, she was on the set, filming of the movie Jesse James, and so she's got pictures that she took as a 16-year-old girl. So this is a young girl's collection family photo album. There's also pictures of some bank robbers from the Northfield, Minnesota raid, which are originals, and Quantrill's guerrillas, some originals, just passed down through the families through many, many years.
One portrait shows Jesse James as a boy of 14. Born in 1847 and captured in the early days of the Civil War.
If we look at the tonality of this photograph and its presentation on a cabinet card, we see that the photograph itself is a silver print, whereas these other photographs have a brownish tone and are known as albumen prints. And from the photographic technique, we can actually date the production of the photograph. So again, the sitting was in 1861, but this photograph is a copy of that original photograph.
Though some prints are later copies, the album also includes authentic carte de visite photographs from 1876, the very year of the Northfield robbery. Those grim images of slain outlaws were once published to prove their deaths, with the younger brothers and Charlie Pitts among the photographed.
Indeed, here we can see the younger brothers who are depicted on the top and the bottom, Charlie Pitts, and two of the dead bank robbers. And then over here, we see a photograph that's associated with the Quantrill gang.
Yes.
The James brothers themselves narrowly escaped the raid, cementing their legend as outlaws both feared and romanticized. The album also bears ties to Quantrill's guerrillas, the brutal Confederate raiders with whom Jesse once rode in his youth. Adding a layer of intimacy, the guest notes her great-grandmother carried the middle name Quantrill, underscoring the family's deep ties to this history.
Jesse James rode with Quantrill's guerrillas. In fact, my great-grandmother's middle name was Quantrill. She was Fanny Quantrill Samuels, which Dr. Samuels married Jesse's mother.
The photographs are more than keepsakes. They are a pictorial record of violence, myth, and family, entwined with American folklore. At auction, such an album would command a remarkable figure, with an estimate between
A ballpark figure would be $15,000 to $25,000. Thank you so much for bringing it in.
Thank you so much.